Heyo everybody, Haku here with my live reaction to read through for Tower of God chapter 634, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm recording this at like midnight, so you're seeing this very very late, probably like 3-4 in the morning. I don't know when I will have this up for you all. Either way though, excited to read, as I always am. I always go into Tower of God looking forward to it being good, hoping it will be good. Again, with this arc, often disappointed, often let down, but I always go into it wanting to have fun. And even last week's chapter, I still wanted to have fun. I think I titled my reaction something like, "Is this the series low point?" And that wasn't a statement on the chapter being the worst, because the chapter I don't think was very good, but I definitely don't think it was the worst in the series either. But when I'm talking about the series' low point, it may have still been the series' low point, or not specifically that chapter or that week, but kind of right now in general, because right now it feels like we are so split with each other being months apart. We've been 12 weeks apart before, now we're only 11 weeks, but we're still very, very split in terms of people reading the scans and people reading officially. There's a massive gap there, and even if for whatever reason you were not reading scans, but then also reading FastPass, you'd still be like 5-6 chapters ahead. So there'd still be a big gap. And then you would have a gap between, you would be the real minority with a gap ahead of you with the scan readers and a gap behind you with the official readers. And we're so split. Plus, I do think this arc has probably been the least good arc in the series so far. And that's saying, like, other arcs might have had things that I liked or didn't like, but there were less of the things that I think were not good, because this arc has had some great chapters, some great moments. But the thing is, I can look at other arcs and be like, oh, that arc had great chapters, great moments, and I can't really say a single thing about it. Like most arcs pre-Hell Train, it's like, I like basically everything about them. I don't really have any negative things to say about them. So for this, it's like, okay, there are good things, of course, but it gets held back by a lot of bad things, more so than I think any other arc previously. So there is that, and again, not all of it is things that you can really judge it for yet, but I'll talk about last week's chapter a little bit before I start reading. I'll try not to keep the long Haku intro too long here, but yeah, this is maybe the least good arc so far, on top of like actual readers being split so far from each other, and then we get an anime adaptation, and it's not very good. Again, I don't think it's terrible. It's definitely not the worst anime I've ever seen, but I will say that for, the 2020s, it's a below average anime. And the thing that makes that bad is that it's below average, whereas we readers, we know Tower of God could be so much more than below average. We know it could just be so much more than that. Now, after last week's video, when I talked about like wanting to catch up to the anime and everything, a bunch of you said, well, you tempered my expectations. Again, I never go into anything with expectations set too high, because then you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. But a bunch of people were like, it has gotten better. The anime has gotten better. It's like you tempered my expectations. You were like, it's not like great, but it's definitely gotten better. So I definitely am going to catch up to the anime as soon as possible. I didn't have time to do it this week, so hopefully, or last week rather, hopefully sometime this week, I'll have time to catch up to the anime. Even if it's like not the best, obviously, I really do want to catch up to that. So yeah, between those three things, the, anime not being the best, the manhwa not being at its best, and the way that we're forced to read not being at its best, it just feels like it drags discussion of the series and drags like my perception of the series as a whole kind of down. As for last week's chapter, I said it wasn't very good, and it wasn't very good, but most of that has to do with wider context of this arc itself, because if I were to have never read Tower of God before, never ever read it, and I read last week's chapter, I'd be like, that's a chapter. that was all right. Like, there's nothing egregious about it. It's just the wider context of when this is happening and how it's happening, the general structure of this arc that's not really doing it any favors. It's very much dragging it down. A lot of the worst sort of aspects of modern Tower of God are plaguing the Baam and Dumas fight. But that's again not to say that it's the worst chapter ever. There are plenty of things that I like. Something that I like, and I hope that, if we do have to see this kind of stuff from Baam, stuff I want to see more of. We have Baam rushing him with the Dragon Tiger Gate, and Dumas does he stances up for him and he hits him with the old get rotated. Now Baam, when Dumas is coming in for that punch, he becomes a Deku Mas. Baam stances up and he copies Dumas's like spinny move, and like I think that's really cool. That's stuff that I feel like works for Baam. The move copying stuff in his fights I think is something that has been there from the beginning. That's kind of the through line for him as an irregular. Like, if each irregular has some specific thing that they're good at, like Tromre disconnecting things, Baam copying things is his thing as a character. So I think that, like, that's cool to see. I also, another callback that I think is good too, more stuff like this I think shows good writing. It's just, in a weird place with a weird setup, and weird setup is maybe the best way to put it. A weird structure for the arc in general. But one thing I liked is we always saw Dumas going in when he was in his armor, and when he was in the naked Mr. Krabs armor form, he would go in with the like chicken foot on face attack, and we see him now in his true form with the purple energy ignition stuff, going in for the kick for that like foot on face maneuver. And again, I think that's really cool, showing the consistency in Dumas's fighting style, showing Baam copying Dumas's moves, things like that I think are cool. Again, it's just their issues. With the general structure, I really wish that we had done, if we were going to do something like this, we had done it earlier. Again, I don't think Baam should be fighting Dumas here and like this. I don't think it should be conclusive. I think at the point we are in the story, it doesn't make much sense for them to be fighting. And that has to do with a lot of things we're seeing. I think that it maybe would have been best, before going into any of the family head stuff, to have settled this kind of stuff, especially the stuff with say Andrasi and Belleria, that kind of stuff, or the stuff outside of this where we just cut away from characters like Yama, Cha, Robodon, all this other stuff, and we've just been cutting away from so many things for so long. It feels like we should have kind of front-loaded some of that stuff so that we could really focus in on the family heads and their fight, because that stuff has been very, very good, but it takes away from it a little bit, cutting away from it so much, and it also takes away from it having this like minor stuff going on at the same time. Like, the family head fight should be our big climactic like final battle of this arc, and yet it feels like it feels like it's coming at a weird place, and the structure overall is weird. But that's something that, even though it feels that way, I'm not going to be too super critical. I feel like on one hand I can be critical, and on another I shouldn't, because on one hand, Tower of God's a weekly releasing series, and I think when it comes to a weekly releasing series, you should be writing in a way where things are exciting and fun to read on a week-to-week basis, because a week-to-week basis is how many fans are reading. However, the side of me that doesn't want to criticize that aspect of things yet is because when it comes to arc structure, you gotta wait and see where it goes. It may be like really disorganized and really not ideal right now, but you come back years later and then reread this stuff, and that structure stuff, knowing where it goes in the future, could be not as bad, or it could still be bad, who knows. But yeah, that's generally all I have to say. I wanted to talk a little bit, I guess, about general Tower of God stuff before reading this week, and about last week's chapter. So yeah, I don't think last week's chapter was the worst. I think the worst were probably some other chapters this arc still. I think generally this arc is the least good, for sure. I think last week's chapter, again, though it wasn't the worst, it wasn't good either. It wasn't very good. But there are some good things in there, and I always hope that Siu can fix some things and can, do his best with some things, but unless we're getting some like extreme retcons and some like massive sweeping changes. I was pretty done with Baam when reading last week, and I still kind of am. I feel like Baam as a character, when it comes to the main characters especially, and Kuhn's kind of in there too with all the Sweetfish stuff, I feel like their stories and their characters have just gone so off the rails that it's going to be extremely hard, if not possible, to bring me as a reader back for them. But yeah, either way, with all that aside, I guess let's start reading. A Sweetfish. You know what it's waiting for, don't you? When you shoot the heart, it's waiting to use the power that'll pour out from the heart to save that regular. So, just trust me, and shoot. Sometimes the best way to defeat beasts like him, whoops, sorry about that, is to go around them. Battle in the Heart Chamber 4. Baam pulls the bow back. And there were a lot of problems too, and there was even a comment or two saying, oh, how could you say the art isn't very good? The art has had quite a few moments, like lately this arc. I've always said that I don't like saying that the art has gotten better or worse, just that it's gotten different. If you prefer the Season 1 art style, it was sketchy, it was less detailed, but I could understand liking it for how raw and unique and unique to Tower of God, and like how much it felt just like CU, like Tower of God. I think getting into early Season 2 is probably some of the best arc. Then getting into Hell Train, again, the art style kind of wavers a little from arc to arc. I feel like similar to One Piece is another very long-running series where the art style sometimes wavers a bit from arc to arc, and it's like, oh, this arc's art style, then this arc's art style. It felt that way a little bit in Hell Train, and I think that pretty much all of the Hell Train art styles were really good. Getting into Season 3, we have a lot more consistency, many times more detail, depending on what you want to call detail, more things going on at the very least. But we lose a lot of that emotion, and sometimes things can look really generic and really stiff, and I think we've seen a lot of that, especially lately. Like, for as great as some of these flashback chapters were, I think the flashback chapters were awesome, there was some pretty stiff art in a lot of it. And I think that getting into fights, the fights in Season 3 had been criticized a lot as we were going into the nest, and in the early parts of the nest, of just being cluttered, stuff that was unnecessary flying everywhere, and it felt like towards the end of the nest we had some really good fights with some really solid artwork that felt like we were turning things around. And then going into the post hiatus, as we were getting into the hotel arc, things looked really good, and I think we really, for the most part, kept up that really good artwork. It was different. It wasn't my favorite style, but it was really good still. Again, that's the thing, it wasn't bad, it was just different. But I think that lately especially, things have definitely been dipping in quality. It feels like the way the characters look, how stiff some of the poses and expressions are, has definitely kind of gone down a bit. And that's, again, not to say that there isn't incredible like panels here and there, but I think my biggest problem is so many chapters. I talked about it last time. We get so many wasted panels. A panel in a manga or manhwa or anything, each panel should be giving you some sort of visual information. It should be telling you what something looks like, how something's moving, what a character is feeling, establishing what the place they're in looks like, or establishing how far something is from something. It should always be giving you visual information. And I think that we get some panels sometimes that just genuinely aren't giving us any new visual information. They aren't really telling us anything, at least not anything that we haven't already seen or don't already know. And we run into this issue with panels where there is just stuff everywhere, but it's not saying anything. There are things everywhere, but there's nothing actually happening, nothing actually being conveyed to us. And I think the art has taken a big step down again in that direction, where people were right in criticizing it in, the area of Season 3 heading towards the nest, but then it got so much better, and it feels like we've backslid a bunch recently to it getting back into these bad habits that it was in the past. So I do think that that has been an issue with the art. Why is he suddenly aiming for my heart? So Dumas can tell. Do you really think I'll let you get away with that? He's aiming still. And then at the last moment it looks like he goes back to Dumas, which could be smart. Make him think you're aiming at the heart and then switch back to him at the last second as he goes to defend the heart. Black March looks shocked by Baam's decision, I think. Hey, what the hell's wrong with you? You're not supposed to you're supposed to shoot at the heart, not that big gorilla. I told you. I'll help you. Now stop fooling around and aim for the heart. Or is it a double play where he's only pretending to switch back to Dumas, but the arrow is going to shift in midair to go toward the heart? That boy. He fires. I like his way of thinking. It's going in as he's still lifting Rosario. We see the large size of the projectile as it barrels in towards Dumas, and then Baam chases in behind it to get in close to Dumas. I simply can't run away like this. I know there are times when you need to retreat from a fight, but it's still too soon for that. He goes in with multiple palm thrusts. Even if I try to shoot the heart now, Dumas will block me anyway. I need to force my way past him. If I try to slip past him without even making a crack in his defenses... He's yelling as he goes for the attack. I'll never achieve the outcome I hope for. And that's not all. There's another reason. If I run away now... We see this massive shockwave from his close-range attacks. How will I protect anyone ever again? That is kind of dumb for Baam to think, honestly. Like, at this point in the story, because he's not really running away, he would have to go for the heart instead of Dumas to try to protect Khun and Rak. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of dumb for him to think this at this point. And also, there is the inconsistency with him being like, oh no, I can't do this anymore, and then being like, okay, now I'm just going to run in straight up in front of him again. It's just really wavering. He fires another shot. It looks like this is him avoiding counterattacks from Rosario. And then he can't avoid forever, eventually gets hit. And again, here's the thing. This isn't terrible, but you can see how it's not super great. So we see him readying his arm here. Now that we see Baam dodging, we can assume that instead of sending the little spearheads out, like Rosario did when it wasn't ignited, now in this pink ignition state, it's sending out these sort of magenta lightning bolts, essentially. And that's what's being dodged by Baam here in all of these panels. It's not super clear, it's not super well defined, but you can kind of put it together. And then we see this shot, so we assume he's readying another one of those attacks. And again, the pink lightning bolts are coming in, and it's seemingly Baam is blocking them, but some are kind of behind him. Again, it's just not super well done. It's not super clean. And then we have this panel where I guess they've been blocked, and now they're kind of like scraping past him a bit as he moves forward still. He lifts up his palms again. Before I leave this place. And he's in close. I'm going to do this. Less power, but faster. Sea Dragon. This is different from that last skill. It's much quicker. Reverse flow. and the Shinsu's flowing in the opposite direction. Oh, okay. Reverse flow control is what Dumas is thinking, and the Shinsu's flowing in the opposite direction is what Baam is thinking. Reflux. Double-handed. Floral butterfly. Piercing technique. And again, this isn't bad, but it's a lot. It's cluttered. And I feel like, I guess I don't like something that I keep seeing happen with, more than manhwa, it's mostly like a video game thing where people making things will get criticism for something. Will get people telling them things. And then instead of saying, oh, the people who are enjoying this thing I made are criticizing this and they think it'd be better if I fixed this up or did this a bit differently, or they think this new thing I'm doing isn't a good thing, and they fix it so that fans are happier with what they're getting. People who enjoy the series are happy with what they're getting. They just keep doubling down on something that fans are vocally not liking. I think some of the hate from Korean fans has been a bit much sometimes with CU, but I've taken to kind of reading the Korean comments here and there for older chapters as I go by, just to see, what other people are thinking. And pretty much every single week, there's always the complaints about these massive, massive, super long panels with a lot going on, where a lot of times you can't even really clearly tell what's going on. And this is why I would think that just art style wise, if you were to tell me Late Nest, Early Hotel, is that worse than Season 2 artwork? No, but it's different. This, I would say, is worse than Season 2 artwork, because Season 2 artwork was paneled in a way where you could always tell exactly what was going on, exactly what the characters were doing, and it looked a lot cooler. This, to me, just random things thrown on screen doesn't look super good, super cool to me. It's just a bunch of random beams on screen most of the time and random energy going in a bunch of different directions. And it happens again and again and again. And it just feels like for months and for months and for months, the vast majority of comments that have 1,000+ upvotes and very little downvotes, are saying these massive panels with just clutter and things going on are not good. They're not fun to read. They're hard to tell what's going on. It's not very consumer friendly when it comes to the people who love the series and the people who want to read the series, the people who are sticking into this 600+ chapters in, and people are saying, hey, we've been here 600+ chapters. This isn't a good way to format the art, just these massive super long panels where you can't tell what's going on, when instead we could have multiple smaller panels with this really nice artwork going on, where when you think of all the really most iconic, most really think about your favorite panels in Tower of God, these really, really good ones, they're mostly not super long and cluttered. So it bothers me that for months upon months upon months upon months, you have this feedback. You have feedback coming in from the people who are consuming the thing you're making. Why would you just ignore the feedback? And it's not a small minority thing. It's a vast majority kind of feedback. When you're getting that kind of massive amount of feedback, why straight up refuse to listen? Why make the conscious choice to say, no, the people trying to read my manhwa are wrong? Because again here, it's just a lot going on that isn't necessary, and I think doesn't help make it look any better. Again, have this as a zoom this out a little bit so that it's not as close up on them, and have this just be a single panel that's really good looking with the eyes and stuff, the energy coming up off of Dumas. It could look really good, but it's just way, way, way too much. Part of my body is totally paralyzed. Is he trying to fight me in order to win the game? Very impressive. And we're again being inconsistent. Something that I really liked for the most part last chapter, but again, there were mistakes last chapter, were Before I mentioned it was tough where Siu wasn't differentiating between the narrator, what Baam was thinking, and what Dumas was thinking. But last chapter he actually did that, which again is something in favor of last chapter, where Baam was using these types of boxes. The regular black boxes were for Dumas, and the white boxes were for the narrator. Now, it wasn't perfect. There were inconsistencies. Like, there were a couple of the white boxes that were Baam thinking, and it's like, okay, well, they messed up. That seems like something you should probably catch. But now we have these boxes that have been used for Baam this entire time, now being used for Dumas. And now that he's in close and has stopped him, he's going for the shot. Sweet fish, make Kuhn's heart start beating again. Help me. And he fires toward the heart. We have Kuhn still down again. We get a shot of Rack. Baam firing. Dumas is always completely serious, and yet in that moment, he was so pleased with Baam that he seemed to have an almost imperceptible smile on his face, because this proved that Gaston had made the right choice. That boy is going to be a great vessel, a vessel capable of launching a whole new era for the tower. Now we have the light coming from it. Are we just going to have a resurrection for these three? Here's the thing, it wasn't good, it kinda sucked as an overall this whole fight, but at least it's over. I think it could have been redeemed if it had ended after like the first round, but then Baam going back into the heart really ruined it. We're back. Dumas. You may have won, or you may not have won the fight, but you impressed me, Irregular. If you'd like to keep fighting, go to Lord Gaston. I'll tell your companions to head over to the arena as soon as they awaken. What? Now go. But why? You read the same book as Lord Gaston. He must have spared you for a reason. Right, again, this is something where I don't think it's bad, but it creates more of a disconnect between the reader and Baam that we don't know what Baam knows. I think that when you look at how popular Baam was and how loved Baam was, and then how many people have an issue with him now, it kind of sort of tracks where when Baam first came into the tower, he was your typical protagonist. In any of these kinds of series, for one reason or another, you always start off with a protagonist who, for some reason, doesn't know everything. Like, because of Baam, it was because he was in a cave. You always happen to start off with a protagonist who basically knows nothing. That way it tracks so that he can learn things as you learn things. Naruto apparently didn't learn anything in Ninja Academy because he doesn't know what fucking chakra is. He doesn't know anything, and then he learns along with us as an audience. And for Baam, that's the way it was for a long time. He learned as we learned. And that connects us with the character as an audience, but it also helps keep it so that when the main character gets something explained, we get that explained, so we can keep up. But then Baam just started getting reveals that were reveals to him, where it was like, oh yeah, Cha gave him a lore dropper. Oh yeah, he took some of Chumari's memories from Leviathan. And we as an audience, usually in a series, we would get to see whatever flashbacks that Baam saw, and that would help us out. But we haven't, we don't, and so it's hard to really connect with him as much as an audience when he just isn't a traditional main character in that we're knowing what he knows right now. Lord Gaston is the one who chose you. Do as I say and go. Thank you. He takes off. And I would say, why is he trusting Dumas? Dumas could just kill Racchinkoon, but I think that would be dumb to say, because I feel like Baam knows enough that, like, Dumas isn't the type of person who would do that. It's not even necessarily Dumas's goal to begin with. He's incredibly powerful. Now I really see that. Dumas's original form in the outside world is way stronger than when he's inside his armor. Okay. I'm actually beginning to wonder if anyone has ever seen Dumas's full power. Interesting, and we see now that this form of Dumas doesn't have the eyes on him. That guy was right. And when I do screen time notes, I did not expect to see Richemont here. This tower is a vast world. Anyway, I managed to survive the battle with Dumas somehow. But how am I going to find Lord Gusting? I don't think that's a bad ending, though. Again, I have plenty to criticize. There's plenty that's good to praise and plenty that's bad to criticize with the art, the way that it happened, some of the small details. But I think this is a solid way to end it. I don't think this is a bad ending for it at all. It's not just, oh, haha, it's nice that it ended, like I said before, but also I don't think this is a bad way to end it. This place is so big and complicated, and I can't even use any sort of foresight or pocket functions. Ariane always seems to appear at times like this. What's this? And she's there. Did you finally remember me? You only ever think of me, when you need something from me, don't you? Ariane, what are you doing here? Aren't you even worried about leaving me all alone like that? Well, I didn't really think twice about it. I knew you could escape, Ariane. She'll probably kill me if I tell her that. Oh well, I didn't expect much from you anyway. Follow me. I'll show you how to reach the place you're looking for. Okay, and again, there's still a lot of this small stuff aside from the family heads fighting going on. We still don't know what's going on with Rachel's group. Warian is here now. We still have Revolution and Lobadan's whole massive group of characters. There's so much. We're here. That reading lamp will take you the rest of the way. I'll see you later, Viol. The place on the other side of that lamp is far more dangerous than you can even imagine. I know it's dangerous, but why do you say that? It's not like you. Oh, no reason. I just thought I'd give you the option of running away this time if you want. What do you mean, Warian? The path that we walk together is a path that I chose to go down. So don't worry, even if I die there, I won't blame you for showing me the way. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Good luck. He must have gained some of his memories. What does this part mean? Pretty soon, his power will awaken. And we have the line he drew, but instead of just being a line, it's like a cut into the stone. V. And then, you'll likely regret following the cursed red-haired witch. And I wonder the context here, if the power is V's, because V had the blue flame, right? So maybe that's what's here. I wonder if it's V's power, or if he's saying his power will awaken as in Baam's power will awaken, and she's saying it like to V in her head. So we'll see. We will see what happens. Either way, I'm going to leave the credits up here as I finish up. Thank you for watching, by the way. Wow, this is actually longer than I thought it would be. Hold on. Yeah, that was actually a solid way to end this. It wasn't a great chapter. Once again, there were bad parts, there were good parts. I think this is overall a generally good way to end the conflict with Dumas. I think the only problem I still have is, even after all of this, Baam is still just running around, and then if he gets involved in the Gustang and Traumerei stuff, I just feel like, who cares? Why is Baam still here? Why is Baam still doing this? Like, not still here as in physically still here, but still here as in this role in the arc. It very much feels like Baam Kun and Rak should have, after the first fight with Dumas, have played their role in the arc. We finish out the rest of the arc with the high rankers and what their stories are going to be here. We have the clash between the family heads. We have Haixong and FUG coming in, and then we end things for now at this conflict. That way it's like, okay, we had this first declaration of war, this parting shot, this first battle of this massive tower spanning conflict, and we have this, and then we move on to whatever the next arc is, and so on and so forth. But instead, it's like, okay, we're dragging out things and we're simultaneously getting very, very deep into certain things about the tower's lore and characters like the Great Warriors. But as we're doing that, we're also just not telling us some things. It's like, oh, we got to make sure to not show some of the 10 family heads that we haven't seen yet, as if seeing Ari Han here is going to totally change our perception of things. I just feel like Siu finds trouble striking balance in his writing. Like, there should be some sort of middle ground between not showing anything whatsoever and showing like really, really, really important stuff. And Siu will show us really, really important stuff without showing us less important stuff first and leaving less important stuff out. So then the less important stuff isn't going to be exciting when it is revealed, because it's like we've already moved past that in some ways sometimes. And he does it with the characters too, with the power scaling. Sometimes he just like has trouble either going way too small or way too crazy with things, and he finds trouble striking that balance in the writing. But yeah, not the best chapter, still not the best arc, but I think a decent way to end off this Dumas stuff. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Like if you did like the video, comment down there too. Tell me what you thought of this chapter, my first thoughts and reactions. Subscribe for more Tower of God, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. If you want a link to the Discord server, it's free and open for anyone. If you'd like to help support the channel by dropping a super thanks, that is appreciated. But if you want to help support the channel, get your name at the end of videos, get One Piece videos early, then you can join down below to become a member, or go to patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, or link will be in the description to become a patron. Thank you so much to people who are patrons and channel members. Thank you to Chosen Regular Evan Hawley, Magical Girls, FR Nono, Abyss Knight, JA, and the D-Band, Sheridan Students, David Langstaff, and Folded Ghoul, Slayer Candidates, SG and Stan Cedar, and Pure Element, Padre Diallo. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.